evaporation rates were 24% lower than in the previous year. And the previous year itself was a relatively low evaporation year when we compare against the dry years that we've had in the 2 prior years to that. So this automatically results in a decrease in concentration effect in the ponds and a lowering of the feed concentration to the plant. In particular, the evaporation rate in February was significantly low. In fact, it was less than half of the evaporation rate in the previous year. So that was resulted in the concentration at the end of February being lower than expected, and then the concentration, even with increased evaporation rates in March, being lower than expected at the end of March. And then that carries us forward into this quarter with a lower starting position and lower concentrations. The increase in brine inventory that we have achieved through the improved pond management practices in the past year have had a mitigating effect in the last quarter to some degree. But more importantly, they set us up for strong production going through the winter time, and that's where their greatest area of mitigation is. So last year, when we did not have significant inventories in the harvest pond system, our production declined through the winter time as the evaporation rate slowed down. But as we have large inventories in the system now, we will not have the same impact as we did last year. That's the principal area of the mitigation of having a larger inventory in the system now. As I just mentioned, we expect to have strong production as we go through the winter time. It will not be as strong as we were expecting because of the impacts of what we've seen, but we will have strong production going through the next 2 quarters as opposed to the declines that we had last year. The issue we have with our operation, and this would be common for other brine operations that develop in a similar climatic condition, is the potential variability of production with changes in weather. So our plan here is to look at installing evaporator crystallizers on the feed prior to the plant. So if the concentration in a wet weather event dips down to, let's say, 5,000 ppm, that evaporator crystallizer would lift the concentration of the feed to the design grade of 7,000 ppm. There would be an alternative to use ponds in the same way, but in fact what you're just designing there is actually adding another, say, 20% of pond area to do the same thing. Our belief is the best way to look at this is actually use evaporator crystallizers rather than lock in the excess capital through a much larger pond area. We had a strong performance in the other aspects of our business. We received over $13,500 a tonne for our product, which is a record, and we also had record revenues of 41 million US. And we're expecting improvements in pricing as we go into this next quarter as well, and as we've mentioned before, a significant step up in production as well compared to last quarter. We continue to work on the stage 2 expansion plans that take us from the nameplate 17,500 tonne per annum stage 1 to a total of 42,500 tonnes per annum. We're fully funded for that after our capital raising in January, and all the approvals are in place. So at the moment we're conducting the detailed engineering with GHD. In terms of the lithium hydroxide plant, we're working with our partners in Japan on that. The process for the grant, the subsidy, is almost complete. The final investment decision on both of these projects is still expected mid-year. Lower production in the last quarter and production downgrade for the year are principally as a result of the weather impacts which were out of our control. As I mentioned earlier, we had the record low evaporation rate in February, the lowest since 2011 with our records, and less than half of the rate last year. And we just did not get the pickup in concentrations through March, even though the concentrations were rising, that were expected. And cloudy conditions continued more than normal through the period. The cloud is what affects solar radiation. It is solar radiation that is the principal driver of the evaporation. If we look at last year, the principal reason we had troubles was because of mismanagement of the pond system. These were things that were in our control, and we just didn't do very well. Since that learning, we've done, I think, very well in terms of the way we've managed our ponds, to the extent of calling it best practice. So pond systems, all the pumping systems have been put in place. The way we monitor the performance is in detail and under constant review. And the day-to-day movements that are necessary to achieve the schedule are achieved. So from an operational management point of view, I think we can tick the box of having developed the management systems that are necessary to sustain that part of the business.